Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Con Ed 2019 Outages Public Forum. We will be starting shortly. You are muted upon entry. I will now introduce our Rory Lanceman, our Special Counsel for Ratepayer Protection, who will be presiding this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this forum regarding potential damages and harm suffered by ratepayers, if any, as a result of the July 2019 electrical outages in Con Edison's New York City service area. I'm Rory Lanceman, the statewide special counsel for ratepayer protection, and I will be conducting this forum. During the summer of 2019, Con Edison experienced two sizable outage events 8 days apart. The first occurred on Saturday, July 13th, 2019, at approximately 6:47 p.m. This 4-hour and 50-minute outage caused approximately 73,000 customers to lose electric service on Manhattan's west side from 5th Avenue to the Hudson River and from 31st Street to 71st Street. The outage impacted commercial activities, residential buildings, transportation systems, and traffic control. Lights were out in many of New York City's popular nighttime destinations and public venues such as Madison Square Garden, Broadway theaters, Carnegie Hall, and restaurants. The subway system experienced widespread delays and limited service as the Metropolitan Transportation Authority had to close various stations in Manhattan. The second outage event occurred in the Flatbush, Brooklyn part of the system on Saturday and Sunday, July 21st, July 22nd, 2019, and resulted in the loss of electric service to approximately 33,000 customers. Smaller scale outage incidents also occurred during the summer of 2019 in other parts of the company's service territory, including Staten Island and Queens. While the underlying causes and conditions of these customer outages were different, the Manhattan and Brooklyn outage events led the department to question the company's performance during these events and the company's efforts to communicate critical outage information to customers, first responders, and elected officials. As a result of that investigation, the Public Service Commission issued an order directing Con Edison to show cause why it should not be penalized and sanctioned for alleged violations. Accordingly, the Department of Public Service and the Special Counsel seek comments on the following questions. How were you affected by the outages, including but not limited to concrete and measurable economic and material impacts and physical, emotional, or social impacts? Did you receive timely, accurate, and adequate information about what was happening before, during, and after the service outages? Did you attempt to contact your utility for information or assistance immediately before, during, or after the outages? And did you get the response you were requesting? Comments at this forum will be part of the official record and may be utilized by the special counsel as part of direct testimony admitted into the record in the above referenced proceeding. Before we begin to hear from the public, we have been joined by Commissioner Diane Berman, and I'd like to invite her to say a few words if she chooses. Commissioner Berman?
Thank you so much, Special Counsel Lanceman. As the Special Counsel said, my name is Diane Berman. I've been a commissioner on the commission since 2013. I find it a lot of value to be able to listen to these forums and public statement hearings. My job, my role right now is to be a listener, which I intend to do, and I thank you all for being on the call today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we have about 8 or so people signed up to speak this evening, and we would ask everyone to limit their comments to approximately 5 minutes, but if someone needs more time, we can certainly try to be flexible. If you are joining us by computer or by the app, you can raise your hand when we call on you, and then we will bring you into the forum. If you are calling using your phone, I think we are asking people to hit *3 to raise your hand, and we will know that it's you, and we will bring you into the forum. In both circumstances, please wait until we call your name. So let's get started. And the first person we're asking to speak is State Senator Brad Hoylman. Senator Hoylman, are you with us?
Looking.
Do we see Senator Hoylman? Okay, well, he might join later. So let's move on to Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal. Assemblymember Rosenthal, are you with us? Okay, we'll come back to her. I'm going to ask now Thomas Ferrugia from the Broadway League, the Director of Governmental Affairs. Mr. Ferrugia, are you with us?
With you, yes.
All right. So if you want to, for us to see you, just, hit that.
Oh, yes, correct. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. If you didn't want us to see you, that's fine too. You
No. I apologize. Thank you so much.
There you go. Welcome.
Yeah, wonderful. Great. So I will try to keep this brief. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Thomas Ferrugia. I have served as the Director of Governmental Affairs for the Broadway League since 2007. The League is the principal trade association for the National Commercial Theater. Over 600 theater owners, producers, presenters, and suppliers of goods and services in New York City, across North America, and around the world. We want to thank the Commission for allowing us to participate in this oversight hearing. As you know, Broadway is one of the city's largest and most reliable economic drivers. Prior to the closures mandated by the COVID safety protocols, we would bring an average of 40,500 theatergoers into Midtown Manhattan every day. We host millions of travelers from across the country and around the globe who visit our city and spend billions of dollars at countless businesses. In 2019, through May 2019, Broadway sold 14.8 million tickets. We contributed $14.7 billion to the city's economy, supported nearly 97,000 jobs, and generated approximately $675 million in local tax revenue. We drew audiences from around the world and attracted the highest number of foreign visitors in all of our history, 2.8 million. Now, with respect to the evening in question, as a result of the power outage in Midtown Manhattan that occurred on Saturday, July 13th, 2019, 26 performances were canceled. The 4 shows that performed that night played in theaters on the east side of Broadway, did not lose power. However, fortunately, all shows regular performances and played as scheduled on Sunday, July 14th. And in my testimony that I provided, I attached the list of the shows that closed and the shows that were able to perform that evening. So just as way of determining damages, please note that we record our attendance and grosses by weekly box office tallies. We don't track individual performances. Numbers are only based on estimates. So grosses for the week ending July 14th, 2019 came to $30,166,474, representing a 10.4% decrease from the week prior. While total attendance came to 243,260, representing a 15.6% decrease from the week prior. However, it's important to note that there were 3 fewer shows playing this week than the week prior. So had the same titles been playing on both weeks, there would have been a 7.2% decrease in grosses, representing $2,226,178, and an 8% decrease in attendance, representing 20,590 admissions from the previous week. Now, again, because we're estimating, when we originally examined the estimated impact of these cancellations on grosses and attendance back immediately after the incident occurred in 2019, we based our computations on the averages from the same week over the previous 10 years. That's our week in the Broadway season. That would have represented our week 7 in the season. Utilizing that metric, we saw an estimated 5.1% loss in grosses and a 7.4% loss in attendance for the week based upon those trends. Now, unfortunately, as I mentioned, reliably estimating the broader economic impact of these closures is not possible with the data that we have available. The impact of our shows is calculated based on production expenditures, not on grosses, as well as on audience spending. We have no data indicating reduced production spending, as shows ostensibly still paid weekly salaries to their cast and crews. Further, given the time of the outage, which was approximately 7:00 p.m., and the resulting cancellations, we assume much of the audience spending had already occurred, with theater goers having already paid for transportation to the theater, dinner, parking, as well as already patronized area merchants. Now, I did ask our facility managers about their relationships with Con Edison and what the general consensus was as far as their ability to communicate with the utility at all means, especially during emergencies. And the general consensus, what I got from the facility managers was that they've sort of developed relationships with various Con Edison representatives who are often helpful in directing inquiries to the appropriate personnel, and that actually holds through to that evening. Historically, our facility managers have been directed to contact their Con Edison account managers for immediate assistance. However, this often proved to be inefficient. So as noted, our offices have subsequently built relationships inside Con Edison to help better facilitate communications. But this is more of a workaround. While one might be beneficial, currently if one exists, our team is not aware of it. There does not appear to be, and I think by now we would have probably would have been directed to it, given that the relation that we do have regular communication with the utility. There doesn't appear to be a dedicated line Broadway that are vital to the economies of New York City to report, coordinate, and resolve urgent questions and concerns with the utility, as we do have with other vital services such as the fire department and the NYPD. So my understanding is that the kind of communication that you're talking about has been a bit of a challenge, and in direct touch with the utility to find out exactly what was going on proved a challenge. And we hope this information, again, this is a consensus from talking with different representatives from the various theaters in New York City. So I hope this information we provided was helpful to the commission. We thank you for the opportunity to submit testimony, and please don't hesitate to contact the Broadway League if you have any follow-up inquiries or would like additional details or information.
Thank you. That was very helpful, and it touched all the bases. And you said that the league has submitted, is it more detailed written testimony?
My statement plus some data that I provide an Excel spreadsheet that you should have. But again, managers are probably the ones who have the most direct information. So if there's any follow-up questions or anything else we could be helpful, I'd be happy to facilitate that communication.
Terrific. Listen, thank you very much. That was very helpful and very informative.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, good night. Next, we're going to go to Theodore Arenas from Rise Bar. Mr. Arenas, are you there? If you're joining us by computer or by the app, just hit the raise hand function. If you are calling in, hit *3 and we will see your hand raised.
Okay.
Mr. Arenas?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, and that's fine. That's entirely up to you, but we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not used to working with WebEx, so I'm a little bit new to this, but I'm glad that you can hear me. My name's Theodore Arenas. I own Rise Bar. It's at 859 9th Avenue on the corner of 56th Street and Hell's Kitchen. The power outage that they had did have a negative effect on my business and some of the smaller other bars and restaurants in the neighborhood. Because of the power outage, we've had a lot of the, troubles that other bar owners had with, our happy hour crowd is an older crowd. And, with the power outage, obviously an 80-degree temperature, we lost a lot of our clients during that time. You know, and our younger crowd, they didn't want to stay because they didn't have the music or the ambiance that they had. But even though both of these issues were damaging to the business, I think the most detrimental part of the power outage that we had is the inability to collect payment. Due to the power outage, we couldn't use our cash registers. We couldn't collect credit card payments, and customers didn't have access to use ATMs in the area to get cash. So because of our inability to collect any payment, our business lost $10,000 in sales that day, not to mention the product that we had to give away to our patrons that started a tab prior to the power outage. And despite everything that happened, we tried to stay open, and we stayed open till closing time. And though I do appreciate Con Edison getting the power back on at almost midnight, the damage was already done, and it was impossible to salvage the evening because of our base crowd wasn't there. So I'm basically just telling you my experience as a small business owner with bars and restaurants. I know a lot of people in the neighborhood share these views and opinion, and I just wanted to give a voice to the small businesses and restaurants in Hell's Kitchen.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I'll be honest with you, that's something that I hadn't considered. If I understand correctly, there were people who had a tab going, or they maybe ordered a drink, or I don't know if the bar serves food. And then when the power went out, you couldn't retrieve from the system how much they owed, or I don't know if you meant also that your credit card machines didn't work. Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah, what we had is our crowd usually comes at an earlier time, and we let them start a tab. Usually they come around 3 or 4 o'clock, and they'll stay till happy hours over at 9. We will start up a tab with their name and their credit card. You know, but because of the duration of that, once the power goes off, we can't make a transaction, and we can't even get to the computer to check their transactions. And with not knowing how long the power was going to be out, a lot of our customers that they had to leave, they didn't have any cash, and, you know, we couldn't hold them hostage. So we had to let them leave, you know, with basically the cost of the goods that we, you know, had lost. So when the computer systems went back up at nighttime around midnight, you know, after some of the happy hour people left, I think that their tabs were still in the system, but at that time we can't really process their credit card because they already had it.
Wow. So when you said earlier, I think you said it, correct me if I'm wrong, approximately $10,000 in sales lost. Is that $10,000 these unpaid bills, or was that $10,000 that you would have made had the bar been able to stay open?
Yeah, $10,000 was basically a number that I got because I looked at the other Friday nights, and on average, and for that particular night that it happened, we were down 10,000 in sales compared to the other ones. You know, obviously that's not calculating the sales or the, you know, loss of food and beverage that we sold that we weren't able to collect monies from.
So just as in terms of trying to understand the impact to your restaurant, would you say it's approximately $10,000 that you lost in sales, and some additional amount that you lost in unpaid bills?
Yeah, I'd say that's correct.
Are you able to estimate the loss of unpaid bills?
I don't have that offhand. I would have to look a little bit further into it, but I mean, if we average 10,000 loss in sales, I think maybe we can include the unpaid bills into that, because, you know, the unpaid bills would have been considered a sale to get to the total. So I would just say $10,000 is about what we lost on that night.
Right, because if an average Friday was I don't know, $20,000, and this Friday was 10, then one can fairly attribute the loss in 10,000 to people who didn't pay their bill because of the power outage, and then the people who, like, you know, didn't show up for the other 3 hours that the power was out and never placed an order. And altogether, you made $10,000 less that Friday than other Fridays.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Very interesting. All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been very helpful and very informative. And that's certainly something that we're going to consider as we proceed.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
I just want to go back to Brad Hoylman. If Senator Hoylman has joined us, I know the elected officials pop in and out. Brad, just raise your hand. Use the raise your hand function or hit *3 at any point that you join. Next, we're going to hear from. Oh, you're here.
You're unmuted.
All right, Brad, you're up. We can't see you. If you want to testify by video, you're welcome to. But if not, we can hear you loud and clear.
It doesn't give me a video function for some reason, but
yeah, well, since Cisco WebEx is not the easy. It's no Zoom. Let me tell you.
Let's start video. There it is.
Hold on. Nice. Oh,
and now
it's there. Hold on. I see a screen turned on, but it's all black. There you go.
Look at that.
There you go.
Yes. Amazing.
All right. Welcome.
Okay. I am here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to testify today. I'm State Senator Brad Hoylman. I represent thousands of New Yorkers, businesses, and institutions that were impacted by the July 2019 power outages. I want to give a special thanks to my colleague, Sam Vasquez, who's on the line with me and has been working on these issues. I wanted to highlight some of the ways that my community was hurt by these grid outages and shine a light on what is at stake at the present moment. Mount Sinai West, a hospital in my district with more than 500 hospital beds and an emergency trauma center, was left without power on July 13th for nearly 5 hours. Luckily, the hospital sprung into action, activated emergency management protocols, and prevented any loss of life. Had the outage lasted longer, serious complications could have arisen for the hospital and the many patients present. With the summer heat and no way to cool the hospital, a longer outage could have proved fatal to some of the most vulnerable patients in that facility. Life-saving medications that require cold temperatures were at risk of spoiling. If subway services had not returned when it did, the next shift at the hospital would have been unable to arrive on time, and the hospital would have been severely understaffed in the midst of an emergency. These are just a few of the challenges that our hospitals were forced to face when Con Ed's electric grid failed our community. We were lucky that no one died at Mount Sinai West that night because of the outage, but relying on good fortune, of course, isn't good policy. As we face an unprecedented public health emergency with hospitals already working at capacity during the COVID-19 pandemic, any additional hurdles, such as a power outage, will undoubtedly result in an unnecessary loss of life. And as we face the challenge of vaccinating millions of New Yorkers, we can't afford to lose any doses of the life-saving vaccine. However, with strict temperature regulation critical to both of our current vaccines, any failure of our electric grid will likely result in spoiled doses. Each additional dose is one more senior citizen or essential worker that doesn't have to live each moment in fear. So in addition to the burdens these outages placed on our hospitals, I want to highlight the immense losses that our local businesses experienced because of the outages. In particular, restaurants and theaters suffered greatly due to the power outages. On that night of July 13th, 26 of 30 Broadway shows were forced to cancel. This resulted in the loss of over $3.5 million in revenue. Local restaurants reported loss of sales of over 50% on what is usually one of their busiest times of the year, a Saturday evening in the summer. Some restaurants experienced equipment failure due to the power outage. Olympic Flame Diner, for example, reported their refrigerator was damaged in the outage and replacement cost them $5,000. Countless restaurants lost costly inventory as their refrigerators lost powers and food went bad. Other restaurants failed their health inspections because the refrigerators were not able to keep food at the proper temperature. These businesses faced tremendous damage and costs because of Con Ed's grid outage. Today, these industries are the same ones that are in crisis during the pandemic. And as we fight to save these businesses from the brink, imagine what another power outage would do to the ones that are still fighting to stay open. The thousands of restaurants that are barely scraping by have no emergency funds left. Any power outage today could quite frankly be the final blow to many of our local businesses and cause a new wave of unemployment, which is almost unimaginable to our city. 8 days after the first outage in July 2019, As everyone warned that an impending heat wave would be the next test for Con Ed, another outage occurred despite the many warnings. Even more is on the line today when our hospitals and businesses struggle to overcome these economic and public health emergencies. The health and financial well-being of our city is literally on the line. The pandemic has made it abundantly clear we need utilities that are responsive to the needs of our community. Senator Gianaris has introduced a package of reforms, including legislation to create a blue ribbon panel to recommend nominees to the New York State Public Service Commission, a bill to eliminate the current liability shield utility companies enjoy during service interruption if utility negligence is proven, and a bill to expand the scope of management audits the New York State Public Service Commission can perform on utility providers. This package is an important step to ensure that all utilities, including Con Ed, operate with the public's best interests in mind. As a reliable and affordable electric grid is more important now than ever, these reforms will help us move toward this goal. Thank you so much for hearing my testimony today. I greatly appreciate it.
Sharing your experience with us, and we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Mandy Oser from Ardigia Wine Bar. Mandy Oser, are you with us? Please hit the raise your hand function if you're joining us by computer or by the app, or hit *3 if you are on the phone.
Hi, I am here. And how do I make the video work? Is there something
There's
to
a
click?
button. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Mandy Ozer. I'm the owner of Ardigia Wine Bar, located here in Hell's Kitchen and not too far from Rise. And we've been here since 2009. I can echo some of the comments that have already been made about what the impact of the blackout was back in 2019. But I will say it was much like for us and for the theaters, it really couldn't have hit at a more unfortunate time, being prime time Saturday night on a beautiful summer evening. You know, restaurants and bars have cycles and weekly cycles of revenue, and Saturday is typically a peak day. So you're really, if this had happened on a Monday at 4 o'clock, it would have had a very different impact. The major things and issues that an occurrence like this caused, you know, I think again, some of this has already been spoken to, but spoilage and loss of product. You know, when you don't have an enormous loss, or, you know, with insurance premiums are high and deductibles. So in an occurrence like this where we had loss, but not a significant enough loss to file for a claim, we just have to write that off. You know, we have no recourse for the losses of product. Of course, losing business for us, estimating, much like Rise did, comparing other similar dates where similar business, we were about 50% or more down that evening. We also had issues with collecting payments. That was just a really tough thing, because I think what we did though was we took everyone's info manually and sort of relied on the good graces of people to give us accurate information and to allow us to process their cards without a signature later. But that's extremely risky. We could have been liable for any of those charges if anyone had decided to dispute. And then I think something also to keep in mind is it's extremely dangerous. You know, we couldn't just shut our door. We were full. We had to keep operating, and you know, we wanted to try to recoup some money. But I also remember the staff being really nervous, especially as the sun went down and it got dark. It was just physically dangerous to be in the space. You know, then we also we didn't want to shut our doors because the theater across the street, MCC, the actors were literally on stage when this happened, and they kind of all took refuge in our outdoor area. So we kind of became a little bit of a community gathering place, you know, which sort of drove us to keep the doors open a little bit longer. But in short, it was it's a stressful experience, and I think in terms of communication, because we were just so, it was so intense. I didn't even stop to think about getting any information. I don't remember if there was an alert or any, I don't remember getting a call. I don't remember any communication from Con Ed, and I don't know. I do think something phone-based would be really helpful, because you can't, if you're reacting in a restaurant in real time to something like this, you can't stop and get on a call. It just becomes deprioritized. So for future suggestions, something where you would be able to get some kind of direct alert would be probably the most useful. And that's about it. If anyone has any questions for me, feel free. And thank you again for providing the forum to comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So when you say that, if I heard you right, more than 50% loss in revenue as a result of the outage, is that mostly in business that would have come in the door but couldn't? What percentage roughly is that people who had a tab open that you couldn't get their information and couldn't finalize their tabs?
It's a good question. It's a little hard to quantify, but that I was looking at purely what the level of revenue compared to other similar Saturdays. In terms of losing, but that's also brings another point. We did give away a lot of, we physically gave food away just because it was going to get thrown out. And then, it's hectic and crazy. And so we were giving a lot of complimentary things to kind of keep people happy. So that number is probably not fully accurate. That's just literally when I look at sales, recorded sales week over week. But that wouldn't reflect additional types of losses from comps or, if a credit card hadn't gone through, I didn't have records to draw on at this point. But yeah, I think that would be a conservative estimate of losses.
And are you able to put approximate dollar amount to that? For example, Rise had estimated it was $10,000.
Yeah, I wish I had I wish we had lost that much money. No, ours was probably in the neighborhood of 3,500, 4,000, something like that. A little lower than Rise, but still significant. And on the scale of what our business is, that's a significant number for a daily loss. Plus the staff that lost out on wages, obviously tax revenues that we didn't generate on those sales as well.
Right. Okay. Well, terrific. Not terrific, but terrific that you joined us and gave us this insight. And I have to say, if you've got a true New York scene there, because behind you, I don't know if it's a fire or something.
I think it is an ambulance, but it doesn't look too intense. But yeah, I saw that and I thought, this is pretty typical.
Either that or you felt you wanted like a more nightlife vibe to your testimony.
I really wanted to make some drama in the background.
All right. Well, it was very substantive and helpful to us. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye. I understand that State Senator Robert Jackson has joined us. So, Senator, if you are on, please use the raise your hand function on the computer or on your app. Or if you're calling in by your phone, hit *3 and we will see your hand raised.
Okay.
Senator,
there he is. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just got back from Albany, and so I just wanted to come in and first thank you and everyone for this hearing regarding Con Edison and in reference to the blackout that occurred. And so I was down when that occurred. The next day, I think I was at a press conference with the mayor, and then Corey Johnson had a press conference. Bottom line is that I had many of my constituents being negatively impacted as a result of that. My senatorial district runs from Marble Hill straight down 13 miles of Manhattan, going down to Chelsea, 26th Street and 9th Avenue. So I would like to read a statement, and I've asked my staff to prepare it and put it on the letterhead. and send it in. Is that okay with you? Can I continue?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, so as many families struggle with unemployment during this pandemic, they should not choose between trying to pay rent and putting food on their table or covering a rate hike that is being imposed on its consumers by Con Edison for both electricity and gas. For many years, my constituents have been charged, in my opinion, unfairly by Con Edison based on formulas that don't reflect the actual state of reasonable repair and upgrade costs in their billing structure. And that, in my opinion, is just not right. And a fitting example of this was the outage that occurred on July 13th, 2019. That outage affected over 72,000 customers in my district, close to 30,000 families and thousands of businesses who paid to have a reliable and uninterrupted electric service were left without power for close to 5 hours. The inadequate efforts on Con Edison to respond was downright unacceptable by not only me, but thousands of people. But let's consider for a moment the crippling consequences an interruption of that magnitude had. We're talking about New Yorkers who depend on reliable electricity supply for life support machines. It was left many of our senior citizens and persons with disabilities requiring special accommodations in the dark. Many business owners, and we saw it all on the news and on TV, were left without power to continue to serve our district and the public. Also, the subway service was interrupted in my community in areas that were not even close to the outage. And yet Con Ed went to PSC, the Public Service Commission, to get a rate increase on the back of New Yorkers. In their testimony to DPS dated 1/31/2019, Con Edison acknowledged the need to make essential repairs at the West 49th Street substation, the same substation that was the root cause of the outage. Con Edison suggested the following timeline. Engineering from the West 49th Street project will begin in 2020, and procurement and construction will begin in 2021. But due to the complexity of the outage, scheduling, equipment lead time, and construction requirements, the West 49th Street project is expected to continue through 2025. Even when Con Edison goes explicitly to PSC to get rate increases on the back of New Yorkers and detail future projects, and they don't conclude their upgrades before they come back for an increase. Con Edison should have done the essential work first. Come to DPS with the bill and prove that the work was done and the upgrades were operational. My constituents do not care about incomprehensible terms of service and reimbursement forms. They demand reliable, affordable service, and in the few cases that things do not become complicated, they should receive a credit on their bill. Con Edison's failure to adequately be prepared for moments like the outage of 2019 and the pandemic financial burden on working families and seniors are more than a reason for PSC to revisit its decision. Con Edison should stop playing semantic games with maintenance and upgrades and do the right thing. And for these reasons, I urge the commission to reconsider its approval of this rate increase and roll them back. I just say to you in concluding that everyone that I spoke to during that outage was very, very disappointed, including Con Edison, in understanding how the systems work. And I was there at a press conference when the head of Con Edison was explaining, but one explanation does not forgive the feelings and disappointment and unsatisfactory performance that our constituents and the public is demanding. So with that, let me thank you and all the other hosts. Jill, I see as a host there, and everybody else who's on the WebEx Zoom call. Unfortunately, that's all I have to say at this particular moment. I will try to, if you allow me, to continue to stay on to listen to what other people are saying, if that's okay.
Absolutely, and Robert, I really appreciate you making time to talk with us and share the perspective of your constituents who are impacted by this, and definitely look forward to whatever your office is going to submit in writing, and it will be part of the record, and we'll review it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to listen now to what other people are saying. Thank you.
Absolutely, terrific. Next, we're going to go to Eric Weltman from Food and Water Watch. Eric, if you're there, raise your hand, please, so we can bring you into the forum.
Can you hear me?
There you go. We can hear you. We can't see you. If you want to be seen, just hit the button.
I'm not that pretty looking. Don't worry.
All right. Well, welcome. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. My name is Eric Weltman, and I'm a New York-based organizer with Food and Water Watch, a nonprofit environmental organization. We're here to send a message to Governor Cuomo that New York City deserves and New York City needs a publicly owned, controlled, and managed electric utility. It's time, long past time, to establish new standards for accountability, equity, resilience, and democracy in our energy systems, and to create an institution that's equipped to meet these standards, and one that will prevent climate catastrophe by moving the region off fossil fuels and transition New York to solar and wind power. Folks, the time for angry rhetoric and financial penalties is over. The time has come for Governor Cuomo to revoke Con Edison's license and to transition from a failed model that has consistently put profit over people. New York, as you know, has been repeatedly battered by storms, the intensity and frequency of which are heightened by climate change. Climate change is an existential threat to New York City, creating an urgent need to move off fossil fuels. We must stop transporting and burning fracked gas. Public power is the means by which we can ensure that New York fulfills our moral and legal obligation to transition to 100% clean, renewable energy. Food and Water Watch concludes with our call to Governor Cuomo. Now is the moment to reimagine the utilities that provide us with essential services and corporate control and abuse of our energy systems, and realize the benefits of public power, real accountability, reliable, trustworthy service, affordable power, and a transition off fossil fuels. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from a representative from State Senator Jose Serrano's office, I believe Damaris Olivo, but perhaps it's someone else. If you raise your hand, we will see you and bring you into the forum, or if you're calling in, hit *3 and we will see your hand raised and bring you into the forum.
Hello.
You're on.
Hello.
You're up. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Not sure why my video is not.
Right,
up.
it is.
Oh, it
Hold
is?
on, well, you've gone from the 2-letter initial to you got a video, but we don't see you. It's kind of like a blank blur. Do you maybe have the have it facing backwards? There we go. There you are. All right, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So my name is Damaris Olivo, and I will be reading a statement on behalf of State Senator Jose M. Serrano regarding the 2019 Manhattan customer service outages. And we'll also be submitting this in writing as well. So I would like to thank the New York Public Service Commission for the opportunity to present testimony today. As a state senator representing parts of the Upper West Side, a number of my constituents were impacted by the Con Edison power outage on July 13th, 2019. The outage lasted nearly 5 hours, and electric service was lost to residential buildings and commercial businesses. Traffic lights and transportation systems also lost power, creating a severely unsafe condition for drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. Multiple subway stations were closed, and there were widespread service delays. In addition, constituents reported being trapped in elevators, and thousands of New Yorkers' lives were disrupted. As chair of the State Senate Committee on Cultural Affairs, Tourism, Parks, and Recreation, I know that our entertainment venues are one of our greatest economic engines. During the power outage, our city's most popular public venues, including Broadway theaters and restaurants, lost power and were forced to close or cancel performances, leading to millions of dollars in lost revenue. Utility companies have a responsibility to provide safe and adequate service for New Yorkers, and furthermore, to provide critical information on anomalies to the public, first responders, and elected officials. As a city that never sleeps, we depend on Con Edison to keep the lights on for millions of paying customers who expect reliable service and expect them to take steps to prevent similar events from recurring. I wish to express sincere gratitude for your consideration of these remarks and for giving New Yorkers the opportunity to make their voice heard on this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. So we appreciate it. Give Jose my best. And,
I will. Thank you.
And we appreciate having you tonight.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Our next and looks like our last speaker for this forum is Amber Ruther. So Ms. Ruther, if you're there, please raise your hand on the app or in the computer, or if you're calling in on your phone, hit *3 and we will be able to see you. While we're waiting to bring you on, if you're with us, if there's anyone else on the at the forum and you did not register to speak but you want to speak, raise your hand and we will try to get you. We don't want anyone to be disappointed. With that, is Amber Ruther with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Welcome, and we hear you loud and clear, so you're up.
Hi, my name is Amber Ruther, and I'm here as a representative of the Public Power New York Coalition and the Democratic Socialists of America in New York City. I would like to echo Eric Weltman's calls for a publicly owned, democratically controlled utility. I genuinely believe that is the only solution to these recurring problems. We've had a lot of hearings like this one where the same exact issues come up time and time again. And we saw it happen yet again with the response to Hurricane Isaias. We see the issues of lack of basic investment in the grid, lack of investment in a fully staffed workforce, and just putting profits over people time and time again. And just to speak to some of the impacts that we have witnessed, we canvassed a lot of the areas that were heavily impacted by these blackouts after they occurred. I personally experienced a blackout, and it was one of the hottest days of the year, so it definitely was not pleasant. And thankfully, I'm privileged enough to have my health, but I spoke to a lot of people who were not, elderly people who were at risk of heat stroke, diabetic family members who had their insulin expire. Obviously, insulin is not cheap at all. And people who are already rent burdened who struggle to eat that week because all of the fridge and their food expired. So this is having devastating consequences for New Yorkers in the short run, which are only getting worse, and also in the long run, because we can tell that Con Ed is not upgrading the grid to meet both the resiliency demands that climate change is presenting and to stop exacerbating climate change itself. They're doubling down in investments in fracked gas infrastructure when the IPCC report shows that we cannot be building any more fracked gas infrastructure now or ever again if we're going to meet the goals outlined in the CLCPA. We know that this is because utilities have sunk a lot of investment into existing fossil fuel infrastructure, and they are going to pursue that model until we do not enable them to do so any longer. So again, I'm calling for publicly owned, democratically controlled utilities, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us and sharing your views with us. I understand that there is another person who maybe didn't register but would like to speak. Shulamit Puder. Forgive me if I'm not saying your last name correctly, but Jill, could you bring her into the forum and we can give her a chance to speak?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you could just, since you didn't register, if you could just spell your name for us so that we can have you as part of the record, and then we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Sure, I'll start by commending you. That was actually a perfect pronunciation of my name. My first name is Shulamit, Shulamit. My last name is Puder, Puder, and I'm the Director of Policy for Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. Great. I'd just like to briefly read her comments, and I'll also submit them in writing afterwards. I'd like to thank Roy Lantzman, the Special Counsel for Ratepayer Protection, for the opportunity to submit these comments on the summer 2019 power outages. I was on site July 13th when over 70,000 of my constituents lost power and faced darkness as the blackout extended into the evening. My first thoughts were about seniors and people who rely on life support. How would they be contacted and supported until Con Edison fully restored power? Fortunately, the professionals at the New York City Office of Emergency Management, having learned hard lessons from 9/11 and Superstorm Sandy, knew where these people lived and used these lists to quickly reach out. In addition to these customers who pay Con Edison for reliable service, this blackout also impacted public transit, restaurants, and commercial establishments. Cultural venues suddenly went dark, abruptly ending performances at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, Broadway theaters, and Madison Square Garden. Many canceled performances, although some performers and musicians from other shows with a show must go on attitude joined their audience members out in the street for impromptu programs. While there were countless examples that evening of how quickly New Yorkers rise to meet unexpected challenges and assist their neighbors, there was also an undeniable feeling that this shouldn't have happened to begin with, yet again. Since the onset of COVID-19, the summer of 2019 can seem like light years ago. Yet, we can easily imagine the terrible and direct impact a future outage would have on temperature-sensitive vaccine doses, hospital patients relying on ventilators, and businesses struggling to stay open. I commend the Department of Public Service staff for its investigation and review of Con Edison's performance along with its recommendations. I strongly encourage the Special Counsel and Public Service Commission to communicate to Con Edison in action and policy that these failures in service are unacceptable and directly impact people's lives and livelihood, and all steps must be taken to avoid future losses. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much, and please thank the borough president for sending you, and we appreciate her sharing her experience and perspective.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I understand that we have another person who did not register but has raised her hand to speak, if I'm not mistaken, Andrea Serbin. So Ms. Serbin, if you're with us, Jill, if you could please bring her into the meeting, that would be great. Ms. Serbin, are you with us?
It should be here. This is that. Okay.
Ms. Serbin, can you hear us?
She cannot.
Okay. So Ms. Serbin cannot hear us, or she isn't responding to us trying to bring her into the meeting?
That's correct. And that's correct.
Okay. Well, I don't want her to miss out on the opportunity because of a technical difficulty. So, but you see, Ms. Urban, she's raising her hand.
No, I don't have hand raised.
What's that?
I do not
okay.
have hand raised. She's staff.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So I don't see Joe, do you see any other hands raised? Anyone who wants to speak before we close out the meeting?
No, I do not, but I will take one more look.
Okay. While you do that, let me thank everyone for participating, and particularly to thank the staff of the Department of Public Service for making this all come together. Commissioner Berman, would you like to say anything before we close this out?
Thank you so much. I appreciated listening to everyone's comments, and I look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so with that, that closes the hearing. If the court reporter would formally close the forum, I would appreciate it, and we can go from there.
Okay, we are off the record.
All right. Again, thank you everyone for your assistance, and I hope everyone has a good night.
You two have a good night.
Okay.